Is that better? So better. Well, hello, my baby gorillas. That's great, mate. Thanks very much. If there's any problems, keep me informed. So hopefully, is that it now? So, hello, my baby gorillas again. So 3.5 years ago, I stood here and said to you that the legal advice that she had was given would have proven that she should have resigned and that Nicola Sturgeon had breached the Ministerial Code. We knew this. We knew that this was actually happening at the time, and we told you before it even got out in the press or anything else. We were first to tell you that she had broken the Ministerial Code and she should have resigned 3 years ago. Well, had she resigned or been forced out of office, we would have been in a much better situation in Scotland. But she didn't. She heavily redacted. She was allowed to heavily redact because there was no scrutinisation of her actions in this Parliament. And nothing substantial could be done for the heavily redacted judge's report. Judge Hamilton, Irish judge, who probably did a good report. We don't know because it was all blanked out. Oh, we'll just scribble all this out. Well, it came out, I think, still redacted yesterday. Still redacted. So they're still covering it up. 3 years late, 3 and a bit years later, they're still covering up the Hamilton report. And I would suggest that the judges should now release the unredacted report so that we can all see. And the Guerilla TV channel will be proven correct as per usual. The fact is that they knew that Nicola Sturgeon had lied to Parliament. She should have resigned at the time, and if they hadn't have heavily redacted the judge's report, she would have been forced to resign and we would have been correct as per usual. And she didn't do it. They didn't do it. They didn't redact. They redacted the judge's report, and even today it's still redacted. So the judge must release the unredacted report. So not only that, I don't know who was involved in the actual allegations against Alex Salmond, but if the civil servants redacted it, and if it was the same civil servants that were actually putting forward the allegations, which I don't know who put forward I wasn't in the court to actually see anybody make the allegations. I was only at the court on the last day. There was no people who were actually giving the allegations about the sexual improprieties that Alex Salmond was found not guilty of. But had this come out a way back then, before, it's fortuitous for them that he died in Macedonia, because their lies, their lying to the Scottish populace is now covered up, or was not covered up, and it hadn't gone to court for him to be able to sue them. Or sue the people, which would have then potentially brought on criminal prosecutions to the who had made the false allegations. I don't know if they can do that, but I believe that the case is still live, and this may play a part in the overall situation, because the case is still live. Even though Alex Salmond is dead, because of the type of case it is, it can still be brought forward as a legal case. So this isn't dead yet. So they've still redacted the parts of the report, which I would suggest that now we know that she lied, that they must bring out an unredacted version. They must bring out an unredacted version, because she's lied. She knew that she shouldn't have brought forward the case. And now, when we said she would have to resign because she lied to the Parliament as a minister, she broke the Ministerial Code and should have resigned. And had the Hamilton report not come out unredacted, that she would have had to resign. And we were correct 3 and a bit years ago. And if you look back at my most viewed video, you'll be able to see me standing in the exact same spot, telling you that she broke the Ministerial Code and she should have resigned even before when she did. And now Judge Hamilton has to bring out the unredacted version. He has to just publish it. They're still redacting it. They're still covering it up. And the people must be informed. This is not the government being fly with the people. and making false sexual allegations, while at the same time trying to bring through a judge-led service on people who make false or sexual allegations, so that it can be just the judge that's making the decision on this. I suggest that we bring in polygraph tests to find out, and not just in sexual cases, but in all cases, to find out who's actually lying. False allegations and also it should be prosecuted. They should be criminal in its own right, and criminal charges should be brought against people that make false allegations, and that should be on the back of polygraph tests for the accused and accuser. So, and then we can find out, because there's nothing worse than somebody who's making false allegations. That person spends years in jail, which they were trying to do with Alex Salmond. And it was quite fortuitous that he died just before they were going to bring in, I think, well, we don't know. Obviously, he was overweight, and I'll talk about that later on when I pay tribute to him. But and I said that he was overweight as well. It wasn't. I was just saying, Alex Salmond's fat. He had to lose weight. It was obviously because of his being overweight, and he wasn't prepared to do it. He had to lose weight. But the case against the Scottish Government isn't finished. It's still an ongoing case, and it should be prosecuted to the last degree to find out if the state was making false sexual allegations against Alex Salmond deliberately. And I know for a fact that some of them were erroneous, spurious. Because I heard what the allegations were. They weren't sexual or anything. Touching somebody's shoulder isn't something sexual, or touching somebody's hair isn't sexual. It has to be genitalia touching. And that might come under harassment or a form of harassment, but it wasn't sexual harassment. You can't just make up, giving somebody a kiss in the cheek, that's sexual harassment, giving somebody a cuddle. That's not sexual harassment. I guess it depends how it's done. If you're twerking down in with police officers down in London, it seems to be not sexual harassment, but you just never know what's going on. Seems one rule for one for another. So, we're now at the stage where there might be an indictment against Nicola Sturgeon. So there would be in the Parliament, they will now reassess the breach of the Ministerial Code. We don't have an ability to recall politicians, the Scottish Parliament. I think that should be brought in up here as well. Somebody with such a bad reputation, and for Hamas useless funding terrorist organisations. Both of them are due up for indictments to have a review of whether Humza was funding terrorist organisations, and whether Nicola Sturgeon has breached the Ministerial Code, going against of the legal advice of her legal team, the legal team for the government. And we'll just be proven correct as usual. So now we're moving on. Joanna Cherry's a KC, has said that there should be an indictment against her against Nicola Sturgeon, wee Nippy, as to actually now challenge her for covering up or sneaky abuse of power, which I told you at the time was a sneaky abuse of power. And I don't know what sanctions, now that she's left office. She's still an MSP, which I think she should step down in disgrace as an MSP. Not to mention, we're now getting the British Parliament involved in Operation Branch Force, which is taken 3 and a bit years by the Scottish Police Force and not get any further forward. They're now looking at bringing in the British Police to actually investigate that. So that's huge as well. That's absolutely massive. So now the British establishment, and the likelihood is that she's probably she's actually brought down, her and Humza have brought down the SNP. It's been thoroughly unattractive as a political entity since those two Bottons managed to get in power. It's almost as if they were trying to destroy the SNP, which after the last election, the Westminster election, the number of MPs got absolutely decimated under Swinney, who was part of the Gold member group. So, I mean, it's just absolutely staggering, and not to mention the false sexual allegations, which is another legal entity, legal crimes against Nicola Sturgeon. So she's got at least 3, and not to mention the COVID, her and her Gold members covering up the COVID group. So, I mean, it's just absolutely staggering. So there's at least 3-4 potential legal challenges, legal cases against her just now, which will be absolutely incredible. If one of all she has to do is lose one of them. So there's now going to be a prosecution, potentially an indictment for her now. We all know that she broke the Ministerial Code. She didn't follow the legal advice. Lady Dorothy Bain position has been compromised, and I think the Chief Judge is always going to be compromised when they're politically compromised. She cannot sit in cabinet with the rest of the SNP. So at that point, there's no separation between state and judiciary, or the executive and the judiciary, and there's no separation there. Basically, she's just implicating or implementing anything that the SNP say in a courtroom, while at the same time they're making up allegedly false sexual allegations and trying to take out former First Ministers. While at this time, conveniently for them, he dies in Macedonia. No state return of his body. That should have been sorted out. That's apparently not a thing just now. If a former First Minister dies out of the country, there's no procedure to actually bring him back. So, yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely staggering. So we got it right as usual. We told you 3 and a bit years ago she had broken the Ministerial Code. She had lied. She should have resigned at that point. But by the heavily redacting of information that should have been in the public domain, she lied and said, "Oh no, it wasn't me. Oh, I don't know what was happening there." When it was her, and she did know what was happening. And she went against the legal advice, saying that she was not going to win the court case, and she went ahead with it anyway. I mean, really unbelievable. So how long, at what stage, I don't even know how, because the SNP still can control the MSPs, have got the majority, or certainly the largest party in here of MSPs. I don't know at what stage they're going to be able to bring in an indictment of Nicola Sturgeon to actually then reopen this case in the Scottish Parliament to allow a revision of what happened at this time, and to actually then hold her to account, because she's not been held to account just now. She should have resigned, but only through the heavy redacting and the judge not releasing the unredacted judicial review at the time. She was able to hold on and cling into power. And we told you 3 and a bit years ago she should have resigned at that point. And could she be a Fed? Could she be a part of she did nothing for Scottish independence and brought in a whole bunch of wokey wefter policies. And she did nothing for Scottish independence. So could she have just been, and she destroyed the SNP by her wokey wefter policies. Kenny McCaskill's now in charge of Alba, acting leader. Kenny McCaskill's obviously an intelligent man, but we'll have to see how they do, especially on the second vote at the next election. So, Nicola Sturgeon, I don't know what the process will be internally to get her brought up and charged with breaking the ministerial code, and I don't even know what can happen because she's now not a minister. So I think the ministerial code should cover people who have been ministers and compromised the code as well. I can't just be for current ministers. And even if she's found guilty of breaching the ministerial code, what's the punishment now? What should have happened was that the judge shouldn't have allowed a redacted report and issued the unredacted report immediately for this gerrymandering of the political system. And we would have been correct, and she should have left. She should have left ages ago, 3 years ago, which would have been much better for Scotland. Then we would have got Humza out quicker as well. And their wee cabal of gold members implementing the same policies that Westminster did in COVID and everything else. Come on. So it's still redacted. It has to be completely unredacted. Judge Hamilton has to put out the unredacted report, and we have to know what's in the full report. It's not acceptable to still have redacted parts. So the judge needs to put out the unredacted. And this is going to have knock-on effects for the Scottish spit out, Dave. The judiciary or the legal process that's going to happen into the people who made false sexual allegations against Alex Salmond. But they've still redacted it because there might be an overlap out of the civil servants who redacted the report and the people that made the allegations against Alex Salmond. That's why the report has to come out unredacted. Oh, come on. So there might be things in the redacted part of the report that may have a negative effect on the government, on the SNP-led government, who are now start covering up things in the report that may have a material influence and effect on the criminal procedures that are still ongoing by Alex Salmond's estate, that are still ongoing, that may still now find people have made false sexual allegations. And that conveniently Alex Salmond died. I mean, he might have died from obesity, he might have died from other things, but the problem is that it was convenient timing for the fact that this case is still ongoing. That this case is still ongoing. And the redactions in the Hamilton judge-led report may have knock-on effects to the criminal proceedings against the people who made the false sexual allegations, and that wee Nippy might now be in the firing line still for her orchestration of the fake sexual allegations. Not to mention Branch 4 might be getting investigated because it's taken three and a quarter years to find out if her and her husband had fraudulently taken the £600,000 and more money out of the SNP coffers, and God knows where that's getting spent on. Why would there not be a money trail there of where that money's gone? And why is it taking the police three and a half years to actually then come to a conclusion on where that money is, and to bring forward, get the PF to bring forward prosecutions to find out when the court date is? It's obviously been covered up because the SNP have got a unitary political police force, and the Lady Dorothy Bain sits in their cabinet, which means that both the judiciary and the police are politically compromised. Stream 5 times 5. What does that mean? What does that mean, Lisa? What's stream 5 times 5? Don't know what it is. You need to give me more context on. And now they've been politically compromised. Good, good. What are you saying? Good. Good for what? Context. I need context when you're giving it, so I know what you're talking about. So now Westminster are now talking in the Parliament, Westminster Parliament, about potentially bringing in an external police force that's not been compromised to then address where the money's going. The £600,000 from Branchford. Branchford is Operation Branchford, which is the Scottish version of obviously not doing anything. That's the Scottish police version of it. It should have been kick the can down the lane. That's what it should have been called. We'll just kick the can down the lane. 3.5 years later, no legal ramifications for this missing £600,000. Oh, £600,000 just disappeared. Yeah, we're the police and we haven't got a clue where it's gone. 3.5 years later. So, I mean, really? What's going on? Is this a judiciary and a police force? And now we've got she broke the ministerial code with the legal advice. What's the punishment going to be, considering she's not a minister anymore? She should resign. That would be the honourable thing. She should resign now as an MSP. She's disgraced and covered it up. Disgraced the country and covered it up. And Swinney must be compromised as well. All that wee cabal of the Gold members. Where's your WhatsApp members? Where's the WhatsApps members? And why the police have not investigated where the WhatsApp messages are as well. Why have they not identified that? Because that could be criminal in itself. There could be criminal undertones in those WhatsApp messages. I would be going to Zuckerberg and finding out exactly where the WhatsApps are as well. Say this could be involved in mass murder, mass homicide by the Scottish National Party, or the wokey lefters as we call them. Come on. It's unbelievable. And we told you, we were the first to tell you here 3 and a bit years ago that she had broken the ministerial code, she should resign. And she didn't resign, and they just heavily redacted it and lied to you. And we told you that's what was going to happen. That's what happened as well. We stood here in this spot. I'm using the royal we. We stood here in this spot and told you that she should have resigned. And yesterday we were proven correct. She broke the ministerial code, she didn't take the legal advice, and she brought a malicious persecution, which may well have been part of why Alex Salmond is dead now, against Alex Salmond by falsifying fake sexual allegations against him. And we'll be proven right in that as well. With a corrupt judiciary and a corrupted... I'm not corrupted, I don't want to say that people in the judiciary are corrupt. A corrupted judicial process, a politically corrupted and a politically corrupted police force. Because of the compromising by being too close to government. So I would say yes, we probably need an external investigation into Operation Branchford. I don't know why it's taken this long. I don't understand why financial crimes would be this hard to prove, unless it's been deliberately obfuscated by the powers that be in here. And whether or not they can cover up any more, Judge Hamilton has to release the unredacted judgment that he brought forward. He should have done it 3 and a bit years ago. And it's not them, we pay their wages, it's not vice versa. And this may have a knock-on effect into the legal proceedings that are going to go against the people who made the false sexual allegations and the government. It's still an ongoing case. But we won't know that until the unredacted version comes out. So we can't have it redacted by the people that they're investigating. We can't have it redacted by the people that they're investigating in here. Anyway, love my baby gorillas. I'll do another one.